A sneak peek at what's coming up next.
It's not great for autistic people that, we have such strong emphasis on first impressions because a lot of us have social deficits or we struggle in social interaction.
It's more a matter of somebody proposed the idea that professionalism doesn't have a real definition outside of a style of dress. And when I first heard that idea, I kind of went, no, professional, it's behavior. It's really not.
Maybe we should put more onus on people to be mindful of their bias and all that stuff, like of your prejudice. One thing I found was the cognitive miser theory, a pretentious way to talk about mental shortcuts or heuristics. Our brain doesn't like to spend too much time thinking deeply and complicated about things. It likes to make shortcuts when it can.
I don't want to put any responsibility on the brain. The human being makes the fucking choice to not give a shit.
If you trip at a party, it's because the rug was loose, but if I see someone else trip, it's because they're clumsy. Get ready for peak autism infotainment. Thrilling topics, amazing guests, great laughs, and autism.
On the Spectrum, an autistic podcast.
Welcome to another exclusive episode of On the Spectrum podcast. I am your autism man, Stephen Norton.
And I'm the guy who sits next to him. I'm Nick.
Yes, he is Nick. Very Nick indeed.
Exclusive?
Yeah, I'll try to summarize Nick's speech that he likes to give at the beginning of every episode because we need to disclaim that we are not experts about anything. Although I'm an expert at everything. Nick is an expert at nothing. No,
I'm an expert of nothing, nor do I claim to be. Actually, I was doing a live with two folks, Kiki, who we've had on the show. I was doing a live the other day with her and this other person. Their name is Chelsea. I forgot the last name. I wish I had the last name so you could go look them up and hang out. But I was doing a live with both of them, and that came up in the live. And I was just goofing off by saying it that way. And I said, Kiki, it's like when you did our episode, I always announce that we do not presume to be experts of anything except for the life we've led. And Chelsea really thought that was a cool way to do it because
is anybody really an expert at anything?
Well, that's actually where we got into it. In it was Chelsea actually said that they're tired of seeing all these people claim to be experts, but they're not really experts. They just know a bunch of shit.
Well, it's impossible to know everything.
Right. And that's, we got
there are people I would probably call experts, people who have a ridiculous amount of experience in their field, and that's pretty much all they dedicate their life to. They're probably as close as you can be to an expert.
Right. Well, I mean, I think the term expert has gotten blown out of proportion of what it means or what it doesn't actually mean. I think anybody with a master's degree in a subject, we can call an expert, but understand that doesn't mean they know everything in that topip.
Well, also depending on when they got it, their information could be somewhat out of date.
Right, and that's the other thing too.
Even doctors have to get regular training every year to stay up to date on the newest information.
Yeah, and they can be wrong too. Because just because they're an expert does not mean they're not
Especially
fallible.
If you're involved in any of the sciences, you have to constantly.
Constantly.
Or even like pharmacists have to go for regular updates on new information about new pharmaceuticals or all that. So they get, I remember because one of my friends, his wife was a pharmacist and she had to constantly go every year to get to classes to get refreshed and updated on new information.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. No,
anyway,
I agree with you.
So today's topic, I was thinking the other day, I was driving to work and I was thinking about how a lot of people on the spectrum have a hard time making a good impression. You know, we're not necessarily known for making a good first impression of most people.
Or a good second impression.
And a lot of us have had experiences where, somebody doesn't have a great opinion of us the first time they meet us. And then once they actually get to know us, if we get that far, then they're like, oh, he's actually a decent guy or she's actually pretty decent. But it got me thinking about the whole idea of first impressions. And we're taught from a young age that you need to make sure you make a good first impression. You got to dress nice. You have to be on your best behavior, mind your manners, all that shit, right? When you first go into a situation, whether it's your first day of school, your first day at a new job, you're going to a party and you want to look nice, so you dress up and et cetera, right? To make a good first impression.
Yes, but it's about how well you do. It's merit-based, but yet all of those things are fucking important somehow.
So I was thinking, I was like,
Yeah.
well, we have such an emphasis as a society, as a culture, right, on first impressions. And it's not just America, it's pretty much everywhere. I think first impressions are important. But wouldn't it make more sense to, instead of teaching people to make a good first impression, which is not necessarily a bad idea, but shouldn't we also teach people to not judge people based entirely on one anecdotal experience? So if I meet you and I just, you make snap judgments about people when you first meet them, which is why we teach people to make good first impressions. But shouldn't you teach people to remember that you don't know everything about that person?
Right.
You only know this little snapshot of what you've seen.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I started thinking about. And then I can go into more detail in a minute, but I don't know if you had something you want to share about that.
You actually said for the whole first impression idea, it's not a bad thing. And I completely wholeheartedly disagree with that. I think it's a horrible fucking way to tell people things. I think it's a horrible way to judge it. And I know somebody's going to say, well, it's just what people do. Kinda.
Well, what I mean by it's not a bad idea is that because you know that most people are going to make connections in their head based on their first impression of you.
Yeah, but they don't have to.
That if you put a good version of yourself forward, try to be the best version of yourself that you can be in that instance.
Yeah, but
to remember that, hey, this person's going to judge me based on this.
But you're not putting your best foot forward. Okay, you're not putting the best version of yourself forward just because you took a shower and put a suit on.
No, it's not necessarily about dressing. I mean, that may be part of it, but I just mean trying to.
But you're still not putting your best foot forward if you're dressing up to impress.
Well, I'll give you an example.
If you're monitoring your behavior to the point where you are not being you just so you can get the job.
Well, what do you mean by being you? So for instance, let's say that I'm normally a very enjoyable person, or I'm very I have a good sense of humor. I joke around with people, and a lot of customers I interact with in my coworkers enjoy being around me when I'm pleasant, right? But I also fall into traps sometimes where I can be super negative. If I'm having a bad day or I'm stressed out, then all I do, I'm very pessimistic and I bitch about everything.
Yeah.
So if I want to make a good first impression, and I know that maybe I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, or I feel stressed out today, it might not be a bad idea if somebody who is higher up in the company is coming in, for me to be mindful of, hey, I know I'm stressed out. I'm probably going to be pessimistic today. Maybe I should try to curb that bad attitude so that I don't make a bad impression.
Okay. So yes, I agree with the mindful attempt, but only because everybody else is conditioned for this. We're all forcibly taught that we need to make that snap judgment. And not just we need to make a good first impression, but also when you're meeting somebody new and you hold a position of power, you're told it's your job to evaluate them.
Yeah.
Instead of get to know them and find out if they're any good at their job. And so we make that snap judgment, and then we carry that on further instead of leaving it where it is. But we don't know what happened to somebody 5 minutes prior to meeting them.
Well, my whole point in bringing this conversation up was that it's not great for autistic people that, we have such strong emphasis on first impressions because a lot of us have social deficits, or we struggle in social interaction. So if I'm awkward or weird or creepy, based on how someone interprets me on first, people who work with me, they know how I am because they're used to me, but somebody new coming in doesn't know me yet. So,
I don't think people walking in the door should immediately be making judgments about you, your character, your behavior, your nothing, and making snap judgments about why you look, dress, act that way in that given moment, because there's not enough information to go on, for one. And two, I don't think it just affects, autistic. I mean, granted, we're going to focus more on
no, I think that it's probably
people,
worse for us.
I think it affects everybody. No,
it does affect everybody, but I was saying that I think it's worse for us because of the social deficit aspect. Because we already struggle in social situations, so the added pressure of trying to perform.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why we don't necessarily show up to interviews. We're not trying to get jobs as much as other people. And we don't try a wide range of jobs as much as other people for the same reason.
Yeah.
I think it inhibits us more because we're not trying to show off to it. We're not trying to show up for it. And I think to a degree, it affects everybody the same way.
Yeah.
Because it's also telling us that when we go to meet somebody new, like for me and you, when we do the improv, when we have new people try out for the group,
Yeah.
both me and you are walking in the door with power. We're both holding power or authority in that moment.
Like Louis C.K.?
Yeah. And so we walk in the room and go, well, let me see what you have.
And I'm going
Right?
to whip out my dick and masturbate.
Because if they don't like us, we're not fucking out anything. But if we don't like them, then they can't join the group and they want to join the group. So we hold the power in it. And I think we also need to be mindful in that moment about how we prejudging somebody. Because quite frankly, if somebody walks in the door and they look a mess, okay, we don't know why that day they look like they're a mess. Now, if they show up 3 days in a row looking like a mess, then that's a pattern we can follow.
Or a pattern of being late.
Yeah, like if somebody's late one day, especially on their first day, whatever.
My
we don't know
expectations of your friend are about down here. So.
why. What friend? What?
You know which one. Attendance wise.
Oh, yeah, but he doesn't give a fuck about being late.
So, well,
Like that's the thing. So that's one of the things too. Is like, I mean, I've had many a times in my life that I did this to other people and I shouldn't have. But I also don't like it when it's done on to me, especially nowadays that I give people more grace. Is somebody will go, my expectation for myself, this is them talking, this is my expectation that if you're on time, you're late. And they'll deem me late already. And I don't dig that because that's not my expectation. It's not the way I was raised. It's not the way I live my life. But so for you, especially if you're in a leadership position, you need to understand you have a whole lot of individuals with you. And so maybe taking into account that, okay, maybe they're not great at showing up on time. But what's the harm in them being late?
it
And
depends.
by the way, this is something I've come to in my older
I think
life.
it really depends. Like when at work, like our attitude, at least where I work, is not really like if you're on time, you're late. We don't have that kind of attitude.
No, I don't come
We
across
usually
often,
give people
but
about like
sometimes.
5 to 8 minutes grace.
Cool.
You know, but if you're like constantly 15 minutes late every day, then it becomes an issue because you're negatively impacting other people.
Why?
At that point? Because
Why does anybody else give a shit?
because it impacts them directly.
Why?
Because it affects when people can take a break. It affects when people can, if we're busy and we have people waiting. Now customers are waiting
Okay.
because you weren't here on time.
Okay.
So I mean, it negatively impacts other people and negatively impacts the business.
So
if you're 5 minutes late, it's more understandable. But the thing is, you have to draw a line somewhere when it comes to tardiness.
that's
Especially
why some people draw the line at no tardiness.
right. What I mean,
Like no minutes, which is
technically-
not realistic.
I think technically the company policy is just, on time, but it's not actually enforced that way.
So-
We usually give people grace.
So here's why I'm saying it this way is because I think more people need to start looking at things of what's the actual harm? Okay. So like if you guys in your store, if you, all of this will be hypothetical. Say your store opens at 8 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah.
And there's 3 people on.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 get there on time and the other person is 15 minutes late.
Yeah.
But not a single fucking customer came in those 15 minutes. What the fuck does it matter if they were late or not?
Well,
It
it
doesn't.
matters if it's a pattern all the time because that person doesn't know and you can't predict if it's going to be busy. So in that individual instance, it didn't necessarily cause issues.
How many
But it
people come
depends.
in between 8 and 8:15?
We don't open at 8. But
Again, I said it was all hypothetical.
But when we open, it depends. Some days it's very busy. You might open and you have 10 people waiting, or
waiting outside the door.
yes,
Okay. So on that, maybe you should have on the right amount of people to allow somebody to be late. Because
right. Like I said, if you're
screwed
5
either way.
if you're 5 minutes late, it's not as big of a deal. It's when you're 10, 15, half an hour. Sometimes,
I mean, but if
especially if it's consistent, a pattern, because
But if you already have a bunch of people waiting outside the line,
Yeah.
whether it's 5 minutes late or 15 minutes late, it doesn't matter. Those people are already waiting, and those people already are going to give attitude.
Yes, but you're also negatively impacting your coworkers because now they're stuck dealing with all those people who are also frustrated.
gonna be
And they
frustrated
don't
one way or
get
the
to
other.
take a break in between. If you have a line of 10 people
Uh-huh.
and you're helping them back to back to back to back,
Yeah.
you're increasing the load on that other employee because they have to help all of those people and you haven't helped any because you're not there and you're supposed to be.
So we write up the person. By the way, I don't disagree with you, Steve, on a lot of this, but I also think that people are very quick, okay, to write people up and fire them for being late. Because if you write this person up, they either go find another job or they get fired.
Right, but that's why it's
right?
not a problem
But then
unless
you don't, hold on. But then you won't have the person anyway.
But that's why it's not a problem unless it's a pattern. Like if somebody's occasionally 10, 15 minutes late, it's not that big of a deal. But if they're 15, 20 minutes late every day,
Uh-huh.
then what we end up doing, you either have to write them up or change when you schedule them
Yeah, but
so that
even
they
if
don't
you
show,
write-
so you don't need them. So
My point is just if you write them up, you eventually have to fire them.
we have somebody who shows up late all the time,
Uh-huh.
like every day.
Uh-huh.
And so what my boss started doing, because he doesn't like confrontation,
Yeah.
is he just makes sure that if he has that person scheduled, that we don't need them.
Yes.
Or not that we don't need them, but we can deal with them being late.
Right.
But
I actually think he's doing the smartest thing possible.
so you're just basically, well, we know that we can't rely on you to be here on time.
Uh-huh.
So we'll schedule you at a time where if you show up late, it doesn't impact the business as much.
Right. I think that's smart. Because if you keep writing him up, then you have to fire him at some point, and then you're fucked on that person anyway, and you've now negatively impacted the business more than they did.
But it's also about setting a precedent because if you allow this person to do that all the time, then what's to stop? Then if I come in late and you are relying on me to be there on time and we open the store late or et cetera, and I can say, well, you can't write me up because you don't write this other person up for it.
Well, I actually think that you are far more unreliable at that point because now you're saying that you're just going to do things the way everybody does things. You're not going to hold yourself accountable. So I think you're actually far worse off of an issue in that regard.
So I just show up whenever I want.
No, because there's a big difference between
Schedules are
somebody-
arbitrary.
No, didn't say that either. And there's a big difference between somebody being 5 minutes late, 15 minutes late, an hour late consistently. There's a big difference between all of that, and because it's not just late is late. And there's a difference between somebody who's trying to be there and shit just happens, and fuck the schedule, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but
There's
how
a
can
big
you be
difference in
15
those
minutes late
attitudes.
every single day? Like, how is that possible?
Did you ever ask them?
I don't want to get into personal details because
No. Just answer that much. I don't need you to explain
I have an
why.
idea as to why. Yeah.
No. Did you ask them?
Yes.
And they explained it?
Yeah.
Okay. And in your
In this person's
estimation,
particular instance,
Uh-huh.
he has owned up to and admitted that it's his fault and that it's kind of a lack of effort to be there on time type of thing.
Okay.
So,
Okay, great. And so what your boss decided to do was there was something redeemable about this person, so they rearranged the schedule to make it make sense.
Sure, but it also means that you have one person who's not necessarily reliable. Anyway,
Yeah.
why don't we move forward with the...
Well, I mean, but he is reliable because if he's consistently X amount late, then that is reliable. You can reliably predict he will be late X amount of minutes.
sure.
That's actually what reliable is.
Anyway,
Oh, hold on. It does work to what we're talking about, though, because especially when it comes to people who are different, we will write off and we will say that their behavior is bad or doesn't work or negatively impacts the crew, but it doesn't actually really.
I think
It's
those are
other
different things.
people-
But
Well, but it's other people thinking the way you just did in the sense of like, well, if he can get away with it, so can I. Well, if you're that fucking
no,
weak-willed
that's
and
the practical.
undisciplined-
That's the practical impact of it. Is you can't have double standards for how you treat people because people will.
Yeah, you can.
You can also be legally sued for doing that.
You can try.
No, you can. I mean,
No, I'm saying try in the sense of like, if there's a reason why
if you show a
somebody's-
pattern of double standards, and let's say I get written up or I get reprimanded
Uh-huh.
for something that somebody else is not being reprimanded for,
Yeah.
I have grounds to sue that company
Yeah.
because you're unfairly treating me you're not holding me to the same standard as everyone else.
Oh, we're completely holding you to the same standard.
No.
We expect you to be there when we expect you to be there.
Anyway, I don't want to.
And also when it comes down to it, like somebody else's personal life and the manager making a judgment call that we're going to give this person a little bit more grace because of their personal life, it can weigh in on that.
I don't think that, I mean, knowing these people personally, I don't think that's the reason why, but
I'm also making general statements here. You have specifics kicking in your head currently. I also think that
this person doesn't like to write people up and doesn't like confrontation.
Yeah, okay.
So rather than deal with the issue or have a conversation with the person,
Uh-huh.
he just changes the schedule
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
because you're not addressing the issue of the person constantly being late.
But did they make it so it didn't impact the business?
Sometimes it still does.
Okay, every now and again it still does.
But anyway, I don't want to sit here and talk about tardiness for an hour.
Well,
so.
I don't necessarily want to either, but I think all of this ties into it because we do make judgment calls about things. So let's pull out of your store and let's go back to talking generally now so we can focus it that way. I think a lot of the times people will attribute to bad behavior what is not really bad behavior.
Well, that's why I said I would separate what you said because you said bad behavior and impacting the store together. And I would say, I'm not saying I'm not making a moral judgment about his behavior of being late. I'm just saying that it does impact other people. I'm not saying that's bad or good. I'm saying that there's a consequence of that thing.
Yes, there is a consequence, but how much is that consequence actually affecting anything?
Depends on the day, but it's impossible to predict because you don't know. The way it works in retail is Mondays tend to be busy, but they're not always. But you could have a Monday where there's 15 people at the door when we open and other Mondays where we don't have anybody for 2 hours.
Depends on the store, depends on what type of retail, depends on where you are. There's a bunch of factors in that, but I would have to say just as a general statement, like people need to be a little bit more aware that people are different.
Right.
And that people are different lives.
And I have personally dealt with this.
And back to first impressions then.
I think I talked about this on the show before, but I had an employee who was I was a sales manager. I had one of my sales guys who kept missing appointments or was late to appointments.
Right.
And that negatively impacted the business. Now he's an older man and he had ADHD.
Probably undiagnosed.
I think he was like a self-diagnosed.
Oh, okay.
But it was pretty clear that he did, but he was like in his 60s.
Yeah.
But he suffered with a lot of time blindness where he would be doing stuff and then completely forget what time it was or lose track of time.
Right.
But that would cause him to be late for appointments or miss appointments. And the problem was obviously the customers are pissed off because they have an appointment for a guy to show up. And not only is he late a lot of times, but he doesn't show up at all. And so the guy's like, where the fuck is my sales guy supposed to go over this stuff with me? And then it's negatively impacting the business because now we're losing customers, losing sales because they're not going to go with us now because this guy never showed up. They're going to go with somebody else.
And it's a reputation kind of job.
But I tried to work with him to help him with that instead of writing him up. I mean, eventually he got fired.
Yeah.
But it was because it didn't improve and it was impacting the business. But I tried to like help him set reminders.
That's a weird job for somebody like that to have.
Sales with appointments.
Yeah, like that's a weird job if you have time blindness to have.
So one of the things I talked with them is we talked about setting up reminders, alarms. Like, so yeah, you're focused, you're doing something, you lose track of time, set an alarm on your phone like 20 minutes before you have to leave.
Yeah.
Or 10 minutes before you have to leave.
Yeah.
So that you remember to go to your appointment. Stuff like that. Right. And he didn't. So eventually we had to fire him. But my point was I tried to work with him. I tried to give him grace on that because I was being understanding. Like I knew this was impacting him. What can we do to try to help him be on time to these appointments?
Right. And I'm glad you tried to help him opposed to just, get the fuck out. And I'm glad you did.
He was a nice guy. He just could not manage time at all.
It was not a job he should have had to begin with.
But I didn't make a moral judgment about him as a person.
You probably did not. Other people do.
And
especially with this first impression thing. Okay. I have literally seen people who are very good at what they do and very knowledgeable people, but because they wore goth emo kind of outfits in their, real life, I should say, in their personal life, people would not think that they knew shit about business, and more specifically business finance. Okay.
Sorry, ignore me.
Okay, I'm going to try, but...
You reminded me of something.
Oh, good. But I knew this person who was really good at it. Look, it's like a more attractive version of me.
No, so there was a story years ago about a scientist, and I'm trying to remember, but he basically he had some so I guess he helped land something on a comet, and he was like, so he's impactful, I guess, in some sort of way
in science,
but he got criticized because they were asking him questions during a press conference or something, and he was wearing a shirt with a bunch of anime girls on it.
Okay.
And so people were shitting on him for wearing the shirt because they said it was inappropriate. So completely ignoring his work, but focusing on the shirt.
Right.
It was more so, I think there were women or feminists who were upset because the women on his shirt were like scantily clad or something.
I mean, if you go to the top, the actual tagline of this article.
But it just reminded me of what you're saying about somebody wearing a like emo shirt or whatever. But like, I guess they're saying, well, that's not an appropriate shirt to wear, blah, 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 blah.
Right. So in that, this person that I knew that dressed in goth emo-esque outfits, they were really rather intelligent when it came to business finance, but nobody would give them a job. And at the time, I kept telling this person, you got to change the way you dress. You got to change the way you look. And they said, there's nothing wrong with the way I look. And I said, no, I mean, it is still properly pressed and, ironed and looks good. There's no stains. There's no rips. It's fine. But they couldn't get a job because everybody wanted them to dress, quote unquote, professionally.
Yeah.
And that's a word that over the last 3 years of doing this podcast with you, I have come to loathe, that word professional. Because...
is it triggering?
Well, it's more a matter of somebody proposed the idea that professionalism doesn't have a real definition outside of a style of dress. And when I first heard that idea, I kind of went, no, professional, it's behavior. It's really not. Because everywhere you work has a slight different definition of what professional behavior is. Almost to the point where there's no real definition of what professional behavior is. It's don't swear. Like don't swear, don't shit on people. Like no shit, like that's just, nobody should do that in public anyway. But this person that I knew, they eventually did get a job because they had to change the way they dressed, right? But they really knew business finance well. Yeah. Like very well, but nobody would give them a shot because of this first impression bullshit.
Because we were already like almost half an hour in, but I wanted to, because I wanted to go. We spent a lot of time talking about the being late and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So when I started looking into the first impression thing, right?
Yeah.
So my next thing was like, all right. So one, I was saying that maybe we should put more onus on people to be mindful of their bias and all that stuff, like of your prejudice. But I started looking into why we do this as human beings. And so one thing I found was the cognitive miser theory, which is a pretentious way to talk about mental shortcuts or heuristics.
Yep, it is.
So basically the reason why we have first impressions about people, one of the reasons why is because our brain doesn't like to spend too much time thinking deeply and complicated about things. It likes to make shortcuts when it can.
I don't want to put any responsibility on the brain. The human being makes the fucking choice to not give a shit about
I'm saying
all the
that
extras.
Sort of,
like the
but
person
it's not,
makes the choice to do that.
No, I don't think it's a choice. I think it's not a conscious decision. You might say like it's a conscious decision not to, but in the moment when you're interacting with somebody, you're not sitting there and like most people aren't sitting there and thinking about, am I making all these rash judgments? You're engaged in a conversation and you're judging the person based on what's presented in front of you. So people make mental shortcuts.
Yeah. Stereotypes and stigmas.
So the example I had was we already talked about, which if your first impression is somebody, if they're late the first time you meet them, you might think they're unreliable. Or even if you don't think it, it's sort of in the back of your mind.
Sure.
Let's say something comes up in the future and you're like, I need somebody who's reliable for this. Well, I don't want that person. Why don't you want that person? And well, maybe you don't put two together, but because they were
late once.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
and that's my problem with mental shortcuts is that's what people do. They have tendency to make shortcuts based on very little information, not on a pattern of behavior at all. Not observable shit.
I'm not defending it, but it makes sense to me.
I'm throwing it out there.
That like the note that I put down is it's easier to place a burden on the other person to consume a finished package than to consume mental energy deconstructing our own bias, which makes sense to me. I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but it makes sense to me because there's so much information we're constantly that's being fed into our brains with the visual information. You know, like our mind doesn't actually process everything that our eyes see, right? And all the sensory data we're getting. Yeah. You take into account all the sensory data plus the information we're getting interacting with another person. It's very exhausting and it uses a lot of energy to sit there and try to filter through all this stuff all the time.
Yeah, but most of what you just named off, your brain just does. And it just goes in. Like your brain filters that shit out. You have no control over it.
And the point that I'm making is that we unconsciously do that with other people.
Yeah, but no. So
you have to make a conscious effort to not do that.
You also have to make a conscious effort to decide whether the homeless guy is mentally ill or a drug addict or he's just a dude sitting on a corner. Like you get to make that decision of which one of the three you want to judge this asshole.
The point is that it takes a conscious effort to not do that. The human default seems to be to make snap judgments.
No, we're trained to make those snap judgments.
I disagree.
I believe very strongly we're because you wouldn't know that the person sitting on the corner is homeless based on the way they look unless you were told that's how homeless people look.
Well,
that's you.
I get what you're saying, but that's sort of I feel like that's a red herring.
Okay, feel whatever way you want.
So the reason being, like, yeah, you're kind of right. You're talking about the individual stereotypes that we learn.
Right.
But we're saying
we're taught stigmas and stereotypes.
Right, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like making snap judgments is inherently a human thing, like making those mental shortcuts. You're talking about the reasons why we make like the things we infer based on stereotypes. I'm talking about the fact that our brains take those mental shortcuts to begin with, and that even if you were a child and you weren't taught those stereotypes, you would still make certain judgments that you may not make the same judgment as somebody. You may not say that person's homeless because you don't have a concept of what a homeless person is.
You might go, Daddy, why is that person different? But that's as far as you're going to go, especially when you're a young kid, by the way. Like there's different capacities when you're witty bitty and 25. Plus, you also have a lot less conditioning and a lot less experience.
You're talking about the things we learn, like archetypes and stereotypes that we learn. I'm saying I think there's something more fundamental as far as us just making the shortcuts, making snap judgments.
Yes, but when we talk about in general of human beings making snap judgments on things, okay, a judgment on something is giving a positive or a negative to it. Like,
does it have to be though?
Yes, kind of. I think it does.
I think you can make a judgment without making positive or negative.
Okay, go for it.
I have to think of an example, but it seems right to me.
But this is why I'm saying I don't think you can, because I don't think anybody can come up with an answer for that. Like, can come up with a judgment that does not pass some level of positive.
So
or
a neutral judgment.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can do that. I think that's so. Like when I say to people, "Don't judge each other," what I'm initially trying to say is, don't make assumptions. Right? Like a person sitting on a corner, okay, or leaning against a building who looks a little dirty, let's not assume they're homeless. They might be a little dirty for whatever happened 2 minutes prior to you seeing them, right? We don't have to decide if this person is homeless or not. We don't have to decide that this person is having a good or bad day. We don't have to decide.
Well, let me ask you a question based on that.
Yeah.
Do you think that?
And by the way, I'm saying on first impressions, there are reasons why we should have cause to pause when approaching someone or when somebody starts to approach us.
Red flags?
Yeah. Like there's reasons for that. But I also think that at times people are imposing red flags when there aren't any.
My next question was, do you think that there's any
experience.
utility to those sort of prejudices?
Do I think there's a utility to them? There can be. And I also think that we're also causing people to be treated like shit because of them too.
Yeah. So they have a purpose, or maybe a social or evolutional purpose.
Evolutionary purpose. I don't think any judgment we make on another human being has an evolutionary purpose.
Well, not the individual judgment, but the fact that we do it is what I mean.
Well, yeah, I think the fact that we do it is at some point it was a good idea.
Seeing out threats.
Yeah, but
like if you're a human being living in the jungle and you have to quickly assess the situation.
But if we're identifying a threat, but we can't identify the reason why it's not a threat, or it might not be a threat.
Not even necessarily a threat.
Identify it as a threat because it looks like someone who did harm to us.
Assess friend, foe, assess what, you know what I mean? Like making quick judgments.
Okay. 18,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't think like that anymore. Okay. Things that were worthwhile 18,000 years ago, if we're still behaving in the same way.
I mean, we still have tribal warfare.
Kinda.
I mean, what's going on right now with us, with Venezuela and Greenland, and you're bullying other countries, and
that's why I'm saying kinda, because there's also more to it than that.
Yeah,
there's also money involved. There's also political gain involved, which is not anything to do with friend and foe 18,000 years ago protecting your tribe. Like, our current government is not trying to protect a tribe. It's trying to protect it. Well, one human being is trying to protect himself. Like, and he's utilizing all the power he was given to do that.
And power he wasn't given.
Yeah, and power he wasn't given.
Just doing stuff and nobody stops him.
He's not protecting the tribe. In fact, a buddy of mine just proposed to me that the reason why there's such a fixation on Greenland is not for any other reason other than the ability to cool and maintain server farms.
I thought that the reason why there was such a fixation on Greenland. Well, that's a rumor that I've heard as well.
Yeah.
But I think the one that I heard that makes more sense is the natural resources.
Yeah, he's saying that those two are tied together.
Like minerals and stuff that are I guess there's lots of stuff that can be mined from there, like natural resources and minerals.
Same thing with Venezuela. The whole thing.
So the excuse is, we need it for strategic defense,
right?
Which doesn't make sense because we already have the ability to build bases in Greenland wherever we want. We already have a partnership with them where we're allowed. Like, they basically don't have much of a military. And
here's my question. Because somebody said that, like, we need it for strategic something. A whole lot of, I'm not going to say most, a lot of countries in the world have rockets that go from their country to anywhere the fuck else on the planet. Why in the fuck do we need to care about strategic anything anymore? Like, we have fucking rockets that go fucking all the way around the goddamn world.
Well,
like, what the fuck?
There are you're talking about ICBMs, but there are also, one, if you have a place that's closer, it's easier to, or less time to attack that particular position.
Okay.
An ICBM takes a long time to reach its target. But not only that, it's easier to attack somebody if you're closer.
Yeah, but if they know you're there, it's not that much easier. Like, what the fuck?
It's I guess in that sense, it would be more of a deterrent.
Oh, you mean putting something closer?
It's kind of like how Russia had ICBMs, but we still didn't want them in Cuba, putting missiles there so close to us.
Well, a little different, man. That was like, what, 50, 60 years ago?
I know, but I'm saying that's the idea is that they had rockets that could strike U.S. soil from Russia, but we didn't.
Did they?
But supposedly they did, ICBMs,
really?
yeah. Oh. But the point was, putting something closer to us, it's easier for them to strike and faster for them to strike.
And it might have been 60 years ago. It might have been easier. But as of right now, like, if we know you're there, how is that much easier to fucking get at us? Yeah. Like, I understand somebody on your border, it's easier for them to mobilize an assault against you. But if you're watching them, it's not easier for them. It'd be easier for them to shoot off a fucking rocket from halfway around the fucking world. Because by the time you realize and by the time you mobilize any level of defense against that, or even a counterattack of sending your own, that motherfucker's already most of the way there.
Well, I think.
By the way, I have no idea how long it takes to shoot an ICBM from Russia to the United States or from China to the United States. I have no idea how long that takes.
I'm pretty sure we have systems in place that can shoot them down.
Great.
Because we have systems that can detect them.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure we have ways to shoot them midair.
Yeah. Didn't we get that from like Israel or some shit?
What about Reagan with Star Wars?
I know. I can't wait for a laser we can shoot rockets in the sky with. But anyway, let's get back to what we were talking about. Look, when it comes to some of this stuff, especially when it comes to this snap judgment thing, and actually with some of the way you worded this, which I don't think you were trying to do this, but with some of the way you were wording this, a lot of people with their easier access to psychology and psych research and psych theories, and not just psychology, but also like neurobiology and shit, people are attributing our brains to doing things, a lot more things than I actually think they're doing. And also they talk about their brain as if they don't have control over what the fuck it does. Like this is something specifically this cognitive miser theory. This is something you have complete control over to a degree. Now this theory might not have anything to do with like the types of stigmas and stereotypes and judgments that I was talking about. But I know it has something to do with it, and that's probably what somebody's going to assume we're talking about. And this is something we have complete control over.
I would argue...
You have complete control over how you look at somebody else.
I would argue that... Yeah. I would argue that it's kind of like a default mode, and that you can have control over it, but it's something you have to make a conscious effort to do.
You have to put fucking skill into it. You have to put effort.
So I'm saying the default mode is to make snap judgments or to be prejudiced.
Oh my God, you have to put effort into not being a dick.
Right, but
oh my God.
You can only, I would say that if you do that with every single person you interact with on a daily basis, that it might burn you out.
Which I do.
I'm not.
So I will say this, and yes, I call myself an asshole on a regular basis, and I say some of the dumbest shit on this show. But this is what I do on a regular basis when I meet people. I let you tell me who you are. I don't judge the way you look. I don't judge the way you talk. I don't judge the way you act.
You know, people are not good judges of themselves.
Well, yeah. No. Okay. Metaphorically tell me who you are.
Oh.
Better?
I thought you meant literally tell you who you are.
I mean, that too. I take into account both.
Like, who are you?
Well, I take into account both because to a degree, you will know yourself well enough, especially because of the way other people have treated you. You're going to talk about yourself in a way that it's going to inform me how to treat you and the way you present yourself. But I don't look at, like, if somebody shows up in their fucking jammies to a job, I look at what kind of job is it? Like, does that affect anything? And if it doesn't affect shit, go do your job.
I work at a steel mill.
Yeah, like if you want to be in your jammies at a steel mill, your ass is going to get maybe a little singed from some embers or sparks or some shit, but that's on you. I'm just going to say things like, are you sure you want to wear some flannel PJs today? But what I mean by all this is I actually think more people need to spend more time understanding the differences and giving people the right to have those differences. And I think that when we default to this and we say, Bob, it's what my brain does, I think that's a cop-out. I think it's a way for people to say, I don't want to give a shit about other people. But then in the same regard, we turn that bitch around and we say that other people have to respect us for the human being that we are. Well, if you're not going to give that other person a 2-second thought long enough to identify them as a human being, then nobody has to do it for you. Well,
that leads me to my second point, which was the fundamental attribution error, which
is kind of why I tried to word it that way. I was trying to guide the conversation.
Fundamental attribution error is, for those who don't know, is basically human tendency to attribute other people's actions to their character, while at the same time attributing our own actions to circumstances. So, for instance, if you trip at a party, it's because the rug was loose. But if I see someone else trip, it's because they're clumsy.
Basically, they're a buffoon, and I did not make that mistake.
You're willing to make excuses or have some sort of reasoning for things that you do versus someone else, you attribute it to them as a person or them as their character.
You give yourself grace, but you assume other people are lesser to you.
Right. You probably,
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Do you have any insight into the fundamental attribution error? Because it's something you've probably read more about than me.
Well, I've read some, but not drastic amounts. I mean, for one, this is a judgment thing. This is a perception thing. Okay. Again, this goes back to the perception of it. When we see somebody else make an error, okay, we have no problem in the world going, that's because you suck. And then when we make the exact same error, our tendency based on this, is to say, well, no, it doesn't happen very often. It was just a mistake, no big deal. We give ourselves the grace, but we don't give it to
now.
other
Going
people.
back to the thing with somebody being late,
Yeah.
would you say that if somebody's late, you might say, well, it's because they're lazy. But then if they're late, they're like making an excuse as to why they're late. You say, I was late because I burned my toast and I had to make more toast and I normally don't, you know what I mean? So,
Well, but I wouldn't call them lazy.
no, I'm saying that the person I'm saying for the fundamental attribution error, the person viewing the other person late would say, oh, they're late because they're lazy. And the person, when it happens to them, they would say, well, I had trouble with they come up with some kind of reason why they're late versus when they see the other person late. But does that also mean that the person who is being late is going to be more likely to make excuses for themselves?
Yes. Well, I mean, an excuse is from the opposite side. So they're giving an explanation why they're late, and the other person says it's a fucking excuse. You shouldn't be late. But there are reasons to be late. Like, how many times have you, and I love hearing this from employees, when people call in and say, there's traffic. There's traffic every fucking day. You're on the goddamn highway. Why didn't you leave your house earlier? At the same time, I go, okay, see you when you get here. Right? Because traffic happens. We know it happens. Why didn't you leave earlier? Why didn't you plan ahead? Why didn't you check the traffic report before you left? I've had bosses say all that kind of shit to me. And honestly, I was running late. Nowadays, I am honest enough where I just tell people why. Like the other day at my current job, I didn't want to go into work. Okay? I was just having a day. To put it in nice terms, I was having a day. And I knew I couldn't do my job as effectively as they would want me to, okay, or as I would want to. And so I called out of work, okay? And all I said was, I won't be coming into work today. And when I got in the next day, this one girl goes, oh, you weren't feeling well? And I went, I didn't say that. And she goes, oh, did something happen? I said, no. And she kept probing me for the reason why. And she eventually said, well, how come you weren't here? And I said, because I called out. Because I don't bother giving an excuse or an explanation anymore. I don't at all. And nor do I want one from anybody who works for me. So like when I was working at the last place, I told people regularly, if you're going to call out, just call or text me and just say I'm not coming in. I don't need to know why. I don't give a shit why. Half the time it's bullshit and you should have planned better. Or the other reasons are valid reasons. And again, you're not going to be there. I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care the reasons because if somebody's going to call out, they're going to call out. Right? And when it comes to this, I had it a second ago, and then I just had a moment of doubt in my head, and it fucked me all sorts up. Back to the attribution error. Well, we're always going to call it an excuse when we ain't doing it. And we're just going to say that the person should have XYZ better or should have, or I wouldn't have made that mistake. Bullshit, you're human. You're going to make that mistake. We forget the fact that that person's also human or that we're human in that regard. Plus, we always want to feel like we're better than somebody else. That's why we call them lazy. That's why we judge people the way we do, because we want to feel like we're better than somebody else.
Yeah, it's just coincidence that I actually am.
Yeah, dude, so here's a real honest to God statement. And I actually came to this, I don't know, a couple months ago. I was somewhere new, and I can't say where, but I was somewhere new around a bunch of people who didn't know me.
Yeah.
And everybody's introducing themselves. And everybody said, name one thing, describe yourself with one word, like a negative trait and then a positive trait. And a bunch of people all said a bunch of stuff. And I said lazy. Okay. And actually, I said procrastination, but we're just going to go with lazy for the purpose of you use that word. I called myself lazy. And then on the other side of that, the positive thing, I said I've got too many hobbies. And the person said, I don't understand how that works. And I didn't realize that I had made that dichotomy. But like me and you are actually not really lazy or procrastinators. We just got a lot of shit going on, like often. Like we act, you write. I do voiceover stuff now. We do this podcast. We perform in shows. We do improv. We both have partners. I mean, having a partner does take up time. Okay, having a significant other takes up time. We have jobs. And then we also have other shit we end up doing with other people too, right? Like we actually have a lot of hobbies. And then also self-care stuff, right? We have a lot of shit we do regularly. And it actually occurred to me that like every time me and you have ever called ourselves lazy or procrastinators, like we're really selling ourselves short. We do a lot of shit. Like we were filming sketches at one point and we were doing improv and we were acting and we were writing and we were coordinating a bunch of this shit. Like we were doing a lot of stuff. And it just occurred to me not too long ago that we beat ourselves up and we're calling ourselves lazy and procrastinators, but we're really not. I mean, do we get stuff done as much as we want to? Not necessarily, but we definitely get stuff done more than other people do. Which is kind of awesome. Anyway, I think that was
I think
a side
that I
note.
definitely procrastinate, but
I think you might, well, I think you might be holding yourself to a standard that might not actually make sense for Steve.
I tend to get things done better when I have pressure, when I have a deadline.
Yeah, everybody thinks that.
Well, because unless there's any incentive for me to do it,
Mhm.
I have a tendency to just put it off till later.
Yeah, but that pressure is there either way. You just feel it more intensely because some other thought process kicked in. Like you don't want to let somebody down, or you don't want to be viewed as being less, or something like that. And the urgency becomes more at that point.
It's like, but I can do it to I can do it without waiting till last minute, but I have to like set a goal, like a shorter goal. Like, so if I go into work and I'm not having a great month and I'm like, all right, I still have plenty of time this month. There's not as much pressure there, but I want to make some money or I want to do better. So I'm going to set a goal for myself today. So I have to put a little bit of pressure on myself to set like a shorter term goal
that brings you to your longer term goal.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's how motivation works. Yeah.
Because I mean, we have monthly goals, but
Sure.
like, you know, every day counts. And like I said, I've had the last few days have been shit and I haven't really gotten anything.
Yeah.
Okay, well, today I'm going to try to focus in. I want to get this today. I want to get that. And this is something I talk about with my bosses is that I'm sure you've dealt with this with companies before, but let's say you have, you know, we went from having basically 3 or 4 key metrics to 10 this year. They changed it.
That's stupid.
And they have something called the big 3. There's 3 big things they want us to really focus on, but there's 10 metrics which are measured by.
Amazing.
And so what I said during my one-on-one, and I was like, I understand that all these things are important, but there's only so many things your brain can focus on at one time. If you're trying to focus on all of these metrics, you can't focus on any of them.
Right.
So the only way I'm going to be able to hit all these numbers they want is to choose what I'm focusing on at that day.
Yeah.
So today I'm going to focus on this. Today I'm going to focus on that. Oh, I need more of that. Let me focus on that today.
Yeah.
Because if you want me to do that with every single customer, I'd have to be a fucking robot to like get every single thing you want with every single person.
But that's what they want.
It's impossible.
That's what they want.
It's impossible.
That's why the standards are set to an unrealistic human expectation. It is, and I God, I love it when I talk about how things are unrealistic for somebody to achieve, and somebody goes, "Well, somebody had to have. That's why they have the expectation." No,
these are new. This system that is just started in January, so it's new.
Sure,
we have a new CEO.
Sure,
it's a new system they're measuring people by, And not only that, but our company and a lot of other companies have had a lot of layoffs. You know, they're pushing AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all about shareholder primacy, which is something I like to complain about.
Oh yeah, me too. But that's definitely another episode.
Something
that is another episode. So the fundamental attribute error or attribution error. Here's something I'm gonna say about it is one of the ways to combat this and the cognitive miser thing. And I've talked about it before, and I'm probably going to preach it until I'm 1,000 years old. Is having grace for other people and having understanding. Today I'm wearing a shirt, Stay Another Day. It was started by a company and it's about suicide prevention. And it's Stay Another Day. And on the back of the shirt, it's the 99 reasons to stay another day. This is kind of a big deal to me for a lot of reasons, and it's very personal to me. And one of the reasons why I'm bringing it up in this moment is because when we make those attribution errors on somebody, okay, and we vocalize the judgment we made on somebody, when we decide to take those shortcuts about who a person is, why a person is that way, we make those assumptions, and we tell somebody those things, okay, and we allow ourselves to treat somebody poorly because of these things, it causes them to not remember the 99 reasons why they should be here another day. And it gets to a point where we're doing this often enough, and too many people are doing this so often because we're not willing to take the effort. We're not willing to spend the emotional energy or the mental energy to take 1 second longer to see this person as a person. Instead, we want to see him as lazy. Instead, we want to see him as being foolish, foolhardy, clumsy. Like, that's kind of why these things bother me so much, Steve, is because in the end, these are things that people do that have a really bad negative effect on other people.
Everybody's an idiot except me.
My God, sir, you listen to nothing I've ever said ever. My God.
I actually think that there's there's another kind of selfish reason for not doing that.
Yeah, it's self-protection.
No. What I'm getting at is there's another good reason for not making those judgments about people. And let's say
another good reason to not do it. Good.
Yeah. So let's say let's talk about it from the lens of, let's say, politics, right?
Yeah.
Let's say there's a lot of people who have really stupid political opinions out there, right? But instead of just judging them because they're MAGA or judging them because they're a stupid libtard, whatever, right? Making those judgments, right? If you take the time to get to know the person and understand them on a deeper level, or not judge them entirely based on that, and if you understand their motivations and their reasons for feeling and thinking the way they do, it's easier to convince them to a more reasonable opinion.
Or instead of using the word convince them, because that's as if we're...
Well, I'm saying if you want to change people's hearts and minds.
It's a lot easier to hold those kind of... by the way, I'm agreeing with you for the most part. It's just I don't like the word convincing somebody because basically you're saying use it as a way to change somebody's mind.
Well, if they have a stupid political opinion. But maybe they don't
have a stupid political opinion.
But maybe they don't realize their political opinion is stupid.
So I have friends both on the left and the right. And some of their ideas and some of their opinions I find to be fucking ridiculous. And I tell them I think they're fucking ridiculous for some of this shit because I have a difference of opinion. But at the end of the day, no matter how red or blue any of these people are, no matter how liberal or conservative, no matter how Republican or Democrat they are, and I know some of you just said, you said the same thing 3 ways. No, it's not. You should learn the difference. At the end of the day, we can still have these conversations because no matter how many times they or I say that we think the other one is wrong, we don't ever say they're wrong because we think they're stupid. We just think they have the wrong idea.
No, that's what I mean by saying they have a stupid opinion. I'm saying instead of just writing them off and saying they're stupid, you could say, well, that person's political opinion might be ignorant or uninformed, but if you get to know them more as a person, you can maybe help convince them of a different way. And I say convince because I'm saying if you want to have a positive effect on other people, it's better to get to to not make those snap judgments.
Yeah, I just don't think we should.
Like, I don't think there's any
opinion.
I don't think there's any reasonable. I don't think there's any reasonable reason why anyone should be MAGA at this point.
Oh, I don't think so either.
So I would say that if you are MAGA,
we are.
But I would say that's a stupid.
Opinions.
I would say that's a stupid political opinion.
Because
even if there's literally no reason.
Mm-hmm. No, there's none.
Like I can think of reasons why people are leftists.
Yep, me too.
Quote libtard.
Yeah.
I can think of good reasons why, but for that particular political opinion, if you are that hardcore MAGA still at this point, I have no idea why.
Right, I don't either. But
there's no logical reasons as to why. It's an emotional thing.
I will. Of course it is. It's emotional on both sides. Anyway, here's something I'll say: is there is something redeemable about everybody. There is something good about everybody. And I'm going to about everybody.
Even Trump?
Yes, there's something good about everybody. You can find something good about everyone. And I'm not saying forgive them for the ills they have done. I'm not saying that they're good people. What I'm saying is there is something good in each of us, in all living human beings, in all walks of life. Like, you can hate somebody for being a racist douche. I don't think you should hate them. Dislike the things they have said, dislike things they have chosen to do, maybe dislike some of the ways they think, but there's something redeemable about that person. There is something good in that person. They might also have a loving relationship for the last 45 years with their racist wife. They might have a great relationship together, something redeemable. They might have great kids that they took care of for the last 30 years. That might be awesome. But there's something redeemable. And I'm not saying you got to like everybody, but we got to give each other a little bit more effort.
There's probably some people who have no redeeming qualities.
No, I don't think. I don't want to believe that there is someone on this planet who is not redeemable.
What?
Wait. Hold on. I'm maybe using the wrong word by saying redeemable. I'm not
saying redeeming qualities.
Yeah. I'm not saying that a person should be forgiven for all the bad they've done in their fucking life, because that's not my job to decide, that. I'm just saying that there's something about them, an aspect about them, a trait about them, a way of thinking, something about them that is decent.
What about
good and decent? Maybe I'm using the wrong word, people. Some of you who listen to this podcast are smarter than I am, so come up with a good word.
You ever heard of Carl Panzram?
Who?
Carl Panzram?
No, I have no idea who that is.
So look him up at some point. I would say he has had no redeeming qualities.
Okay.
Or
I'm betting money if I probe into this man's life.
H.H. Holmes probably had no redeeming qualities.
I'm betting money if I probe into their life enough, I'll find something.
So Carl Panzram was a serial rapist / serial killer.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, most of his victims were male. And he
why do you know of this?
Was kind of a vagrant. He traveled across the country and just raped and murdered people.
Okay.
He grew up as an orphan in an orphanage, and he was abused as a child. And probably why he became an abuser himself.
Maybe.
But from everything I've as far as what I know about him, I can't see any redeeming qualities about him. H.H. Holmes, another serial killer who tortured people in Chicago.
Oh, I know who H.H. Holmes is.
What redeeming quality? I mean, I guess you could say he was smart because he went to medical school.
Yeah.
And he knew enough about medicine to dissect people.
Yeah.
But I guess that's a redeeming quality.
But that's why I'm trying to take away the word redeeming, because I realize that if I'm saying redeeming, people might think I'm saying that these people can be forgiven for the things they've done. And I'm not saying that.
What's his redeeming quality? He painted?
Didn't he have a loving relationship with his partner?
Ava?
Yeah.
I guess they weren't married.
Wasn't he nice to some of his troops?
Oh, he loved animals. He was a vegan.
There you go. Yeah. See, he was a vegan.
Or a vegetarian, yeah.
There you go. He was a vegetarian.
And he was against animal cruelty. Which is very ironic and very funny.
It is very funny.
He was as chancellor, he passed laws to against animal abuse.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny that he was
look, and redeeming or retribution, whatever. Wrong fucking word. What I was trying to say before, and I think I corrected it at some point, is that there's something decent about everybody, about every human being. And I don't ever want to not believe in that.
So what Nick is saying is it's okay to commit genocide as long as you love animals. So if you love puppies, it's okay to kill people. It's fine.
You know
Hey,
what?
you know what?
I voted for Thanos in 2 presidential elections, so I'll let you.
It's okay.
I'll let you.
It's okay that
believe
Hitler
whatever you
killed
want
6
about
million
me.
Jews because he loves kittens. So it's fine.
Somehow I'm okay. That's not what I said.
I know.
but-
I'm just.
okay. Well, I don't want nobody to misunderstand.
I'm
it.
fucking with you. It's funny.
But look, I voted for Thanos for 2 reasons, and one of which is a joke because he's a fictional fucking character, and I honestly think his policies are way better than most. But also because, like, I honestly think that if something that devastating and disastrous happened to the world, I think it would actually drive us to come together better.
So we'd be hippies.
No, I just think we would come together better. I think we would actually like stop looking at some of these things.
Wouldn't if we had like a lot of big orgies, then we would all come together too.
I think so too.
Get it?
So like there's are we getting close to
Yeah.
the end? Okay.
It's time to wrap
Okay.
up.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave it where it is. I was gonna start a whole nother conversation, but for another day.
Yeah. So first impressions. I think in conclusion,
Fuck them. Fuck first
I
impressions.
I still think there's a practical. It's good advice. Hold on. I think there's still a practical reason. I think it's good advice to give your children because you know that people are going to judge. So why not set people on a path that's going to benefit them, even if we think it's fucking dumb? And also, we should also tell people to not go just based on their first impression.
Yeah, so I think it would be more important that if we raised an entire generation to not do that shit.
But in the
then
meantime,
we could move on.
making your children aware that people do that is a good
do
idea.
both. So I did raise my children to do both. To know full well that people are going to judge them based on the way they look, the way they act, the way they talk, all that kind of shit. And they're going to make snap-ass judgments. And I told them, but don't do it to other people.
Yeah.
Yes, other people are going to do it to you, and it's going to be really unfair, but don't do it to them. And here's why. And my sons don't. Jury's still out on the small one, but my sons don't do it.
Should we check in now? I mean, it's been over a year now. So as we wrap up, it's been over a year since we've administered the cure.
Good sir. Oh my
RFK
God.
Jr. has personally funded my project.
Oh my God.
We have the D-Tylenol,
He's
the
going back to his
D-Tylenolization
Yep.
tonic, the anti-MMR.
The anti-MMR.
Yep.
The anti.
We've removed all the red 40 from your diet,
Oh my God.
and we still haven't seen any improvements yet. But
Because you won't.
okay.
Because you won't. My God. Did you see what I had? Oh, okay. We'll talk later.
No, it's another. All right.
Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. If you have comments, questions, concerns, drop us a line. Give us comments. Hit like, subscribe, follow. Tell your friends to not like us, whatever the fuck. Find us on all social media. I'm going to start doing more lives for On the Spectrum on TikTok. Coming up soon. Some of them might have something to do with what we talk about, and some of them might be just me hanging out with people who are also not working on Tuesdays and Fridays. So if you're around on a Tuesday or a Friday, find me. I'm probably going to be doing a live coming up soon.
I just realized that this was not a flattering angle for me in the camera. But anyway,
I
pee-pee
don't
poo-poo.
think you have one. Have a good day.